Okay, so sorry about earlier. Sorry, there was no time lapse between you seeing before and you seeing now. My camera ran out of memory space. I had a lot of stuff on it already. So yeah, I was talking about addiction. Well, I guess something I could say sorry for is maybe dragging out my thoughts a little bit too long. I meander sometimes, a lot less in my more recent videos than originally, since, well, when I started off making videos in general, I was very meanderish, and I could hardly talk to a camera at all. Yeah, because my original videos is me talking to a webcam, but kind of got better. I got more coherent when I was making responses immediately. Then I tried this whole walk and talk thing. You go out and the investment is a little bit more, even though I'm just doing this while I'm going to a place that I need to get to. It's really, you know, the immediate reaction isn't there. The immediate making of a video isn't there. I didn't just watch Fred's video about you know, walking and making paths. I thought of making a video, then I thought about it, kind of wanted to get my thoughts a little bit more organized, because when I first started making walk and talks, some of them were good, some of them were just as meanderish as my original videos, though more interesting. I think the whole going out and walking, like Fred says, kind of reveals more the thinking process. So when I would do sit-down videos in a webcam, it wasn't really natural. I was kind of trying to make points and forgetting like half of them. It really felt like I was making a kind of public speech on the fly. But this, it feels like it's, my thoughts are coming out as I'm thinking them. And it might have to do with this whole poetics of walking thing that Fred / ConferenceReport is talking about the relationship between movement and space, exploration and thought. You know, exploration on the psychological scale and exploration on the physical one. Because our conditions are always changing, and that's really what makes us think different things. So why wouldn't thinking work in relation to where you are? I mean, it works in relation to where you are in life, in time, and in space. And all the while, you are moving, you're doing something, you're active. Your environment is changing by your own action and the action of others, or the uncontrollable actions of the natural world. So where was I? Addictions, I think. Habits. Social and personal habits. Social and personal habits. So yeah, things are a lot easier to do when a way has been paved for them. So I just finished talking about it on a larger scale, but on the individual scale as well. I used to practice the piano. Now I draw more. I do art, visual art, science too. The whole chemistry thing, gone back into sciences. Part-time. I'm also doing part-time visual arts. But the thing is that the more times you do something, the easier it gets. You're, you know, as a matter of speaking, you're paving neural pathways, and you're paving neural connections that facilitate what your daily conditions, I guess, the more you do them. And I'm not sure how that happens. I would like to go into neurobiology, learn more about that. You know, maybe read some of my free time. You know, that's always something that's open. Anyway, that happens. But it's not only when you're practicing stuff. Obviously, if that's going to happen when you're doing things, when you're aspiring to be better at something, it can also happen, to your personality, not just to your skill sets. This is all happening in the brain. I'm sure someone, if they move to a new place, or let's say they make a transition between elementary school and high school, or they move from a small neighborhood to some sort of rough part of a city, the environment is going to make a change in your personality. It won't happen right away, but soon, feet are going to tread on the grass of your mind, and certain thoughts, certain ways of thinking are going to become easier, and others less easy. I think so. We can get back to that because I've almost arrived at my destination, and we'll develop that thought further. Okay, so these pathways that are being formed in the mind, I don't think they're permanent. Well, obviously they aren't permanent because our personalities change. And like I was saying, this can be because we're just finishing doing the example of the person who moves to a different neighborhood or moves on to a different stage in their life where their environment is no longer the same, where they have different things to respond to, different things to get used to, not only in a menial sense, but in terms of the people that they interact, the kind of things they do with these people, the personality of these people, and that affects the personality of the individual. In that way, these individuals form different psychological habits. And we can use I think the road metaphor once again in in an appropriate way when we're talking about neural pathways. If there's that expression, pathways. But I think this change can happen on an individual, on a voluntary level as well. Sometimes people would like to say that I am who I am, I can't change that. But it's not really true. If you can change the way, if you can change your personality, if your personality can change, because I just dodged a giant fly there. If your personality can change because of outside stuff that is outside of yourself, your environment. Your environment can change your personality because it makes you think differently, think of different things, respond to different things in different ways, whatever. But at the same time, you can, by your own choosing, practice a skill and get better at it. There's a change happening there. It's voluntary. So then it goes to say that you can voluntarily change your personality. But it's not just, oh, I want to be happier. I want to be a happier person. It doesn't work like that. It's like when you sit down in front of a piano. You can't just say, I've seen people play the piano. I understand what playing the piano means. Therefore, I want to be a good piano player. The change doesn't happen like that. You have to wear down the grass. You have to make your way through. You have to find the right path, the path that will get you to your destination in the most optimal way. And you have to find that on your own. Sometimes you're not going to find the best way. It's a thick forest. But eventually, if you make your way there, you can use that memory to try to make that trek again. You're gonna have some tracks to go by where you've previously been, and the path is going to get more worn. There will be less branches in the way because you've broken some of them out away before. The grass will be flatter because you've stepped on it. And if you traverse it thousands of times, the path will be clear. And being a happy person will be second nature to you. Same thing goes for anything else, of course. Whether it be patience, if you want to be a more patient person. If for some reason you want to be an angrier person, that's also possible. If you want to be a meaner person, a more ruthless person, who knows, maybe you have the kind of job, very hard job where, you can't have a very soft personality. Or maybe you have the kind of life where being a soft person or someone who cares or is a little bit too invested isn't very healthy for your psychology. So sometimes you have to make yourself think in a different way, or I'm not really talking about thought exercises. I'm more thinking about just actually persevering to change who you are. I mean, why be who you are if you don't like who you are? I mean, if you're stuck with it, obviously you have to become comfortable with yourself. If you want to live, an enjoyable life. But if somehow there's something inherently unenjoyable about yourself, you can always work to change it. I'm not talking about anything, superficial. I'm talking about personal. I've had changes in personality, and I only have ideas of how these changes have taken place. I haven't really sat down and made charts or anything. That could probably be a fun exercise someday. But I guess to come back to what I was talking about, this voluntary change of personality, how you can work at something. If you can work at a skill, and that changes your psychology somehow. Your brain changes when you get better at playing the piano or whatever. You can change your personality. But this comes to also addiction, because addiction, I'm not just talking about substance abuse, because that brings in a whole lot of chemical stuff, more chemical stuff than happens to non-drug addictions, which I mean to say strong habits of personality, strong habits. But to bring this back to how I was saying before about the environment, about social habits. Developing good social habits is not any harder now than it was before. It's just that the path that you're using now, the path that you may not be so pleased with, has just been made so much easier. But you can always go back and work on that path. It's not insurmountable, unless the temptation of the path that you're taking now may not be so efficient or pleasurable, is so tempting. But that's the thing. It's temptation. Temptation is not. It's in the word itself. It's in the definition of temptation itself. Temptation is not to do something. It's the allure of something. It is the strong allure of something. It's not hypnosis. It's not coercion. Some people might say it's like coercion, but you always have a choice. It's like, I don't know. I have my own personal experiences with these kinds of things. I'm not going to pour out my life story. This is just to say that, I'm not just pulling this out of the sky here. I'm a person who thinks, and I'm a person who lives and experiences. So, just to tell you that I'm drawing this from there, as well as, whatever contemplation, friends that I've had. You know, this is where we draw our knowledge and our notions about life. But okay, yeah, long pause. One you experience. Okay, but I think we can bring this back to. I think we can bring this back to the automobile analogy. Bring back to the social habits analogy. You can always choose to take a walk or to ride your bike, and conditions are always going to make it so that, you know, some things that you don't really want to do are so easy that I guess certain circumstances don't afford you to make that change. But these things happen through effort. These things happen, you have to make the road easier for yourself. You have to make that road yourself. You can't just wait for it to be easier. I guess I can just use the cigarette analogy, even though I've never smoked. But it's just an analogy to talk about. It's just an example to talk about addiction in general, or habits in general. But you can choose, I think, to make a pathway for yourself. To not do something that you don't want to do, even though you're very used to it, and even though it's so easy to do. And it'll take time, but you can work on it. You can work on that. You know, change is possible. But that brings up something else I wanted to talk about. They say that once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Or what TJ said, once a fatty, always a fatty, or fatso, or whatever word he used. Once fat, always fat. In the mind, that's what he meant. Because I wonder, like, how long does it take for this grass to grow? You know, past roads that you've used but no longer want to return to. How do they ever go away? I know that when I've stopped practicing to play the piano, I'm just no good at it anymore. Just like I'm a shadow of the shadow of my former self when I used to play the piano. Not that I was excellent or anything. I was competent. I was a competent student of piano. But, sorry, my arm's starting to get tired. But it went away. It went away after I stopped using that path. Gradually. So I do think grass grows. I do think further you are away from what you once were, the harder it is to go back there. Not to say that you don't remember where that path was. Maybe you can rebuild it. Now I'm wondering if this analogy is this metaphor is starting to get used up now. It's getting a little bit old. But that's pretty much everything I want to say. Well, everything I want to touch. Maybe there's more to say about it. Alright, well, I guess I'll end this video now in saying that I don't have an idea. I do have an idea, but I don't have a really idea where that answer lies, where that answer would fall if I really got into analyzing this. Maybe that'll make another walk and talk all on its own. You know, thinking about how habits go away and how they return. Perhaps leaving the road the walking on grass analogy, walking on grass, sorry, metaphor. Leaving that to explore more broadly as that specific subject that I'm talking about now, about habits reawakening, about grass growing back, or returning to an older habit. So, bye for now. That's pretty much all I have to say this time. And I will upload it finally